He was given a scroll, and it says he unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor." We now identify that verse with Isaiah 61:1. We don't know whether it was the reading for the day and he simply found that bit of the scroll, or he chose it. What it says is that he sees his mission as a mission to come and help the poor. Next slide. A little later, in his first public sermon, he says, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God." The Latin word for blessed is beatus, which is how these phrases start in the Latin Bible, and hence we've got the word Beatitudes to summarize these blessed are sayings. Jesus is not saying, of course, that it's good to be poor, but he is reassuring them that they have not been forgotten, that God is with them, for theirs is the kingdom of God. Next slide. Then he becomes more specific. One of the main features of being poor is hunger. "Blessed are you who are hungry now, for you will be filled." The word for filled is an interesting one. It doesn't occur very often in the New Testament. But one such occasion that it does occur is in the feeding of the 5,000. Next slide. You know the story. Jesus has compassion on the multitude because they have nothing to eat. And he fears that if they go home now, they will faint on the way. And so he feeds them. And we are then told, "And all ate and were filled." Same word. So Jesus not only promises that the hungry will be filled in what you might think is a metaphorical way, but he actually accomplishes it in the feeding of the 5,000. Next slide. "Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh." Matthew's version is probably more familiar. "Blessed are those who mourn." Surely a contradiction in terms, you might say. If you're mourning, you're certainly not laughing. But the promise is for the future. God is on your side. The kingdom belongs to you. So there will come a time when your mourning or weeping will be turned to laughter. Next slide. And a more complicated one to end Luke's 4 Beatitudes. "Blessed are you when people hate you, exclude you, defame you, for surely your reward is great in heaven." Basically, when you are mistreated or persecuted and therefore feel terrible, remember that God's blessing is upon you. He's there to help. He's there to support, and your reward will be great in heaven. Now it's interesting that Matthew has 8 Beatitudes, these 4, and then 4 more. "Blessed are the meek, the merciful, the pure in heart, and the peacemakers." But Luke has made his point with these 4, and instead now moves over to 4 woes which match these 4 Beatitudes. Next slide. "But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation." Next. "Woe to you who are full now, for you will be hungry." The absolute opposite of what we just read. Those who are full now will be hungry. And next, "Woe to you who are laughing now, for you will mourn and weep." Jesus is not, of course, having a go at comedians here. It is simply those of you who are enjoying all the pleasures of this life at the moment with no thought for the poor. There will come a time to use a popular expression, when there will be a levelling up. In many ways, although it's a rather popular and somewhat misused already term, you could use this to summarise what Jesus came to do. He came to bring good news to the poor, and for those who are oblivious of the poor, or who indeed their very actions have caused the poor to remain in their poverty, they will be brought low, as it says in other passages. Why is this? Because the rich have almost certainly gained their riches, or at least hung on to them at the expense of the poor. We know examples of this from landowners who fail to give the proper wages to their workers. We know of tax collectors who take the taxes for the Romans and then add on a lump for themselves. In various ways, it was quite an exploitative culture. And you might think that things have not changed very much. A little later on, Jesus will state a principle. Where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The rich have focused on present delights while ignoring the plight of the poor. And that is where their heart is. They are not interested in God's kingdom, only interested in maintaining their own kingdom. As someone once said, there are those who say to God, your will be done, and there are those whom God will say with great sadness, your will be done. Next slide. Jesus, several times in the Gospel stories, says, let anyone with ears to hear listen. And it's a challenge to all of us. What sort of ears have we got to listen? I thought this painting was amusing in terms of the different kind of pictures of the faces and what sort of listeners they are. You've got Mr. Quizzical just behind Jesus. Very interesting. What about the chap down here? I'm not really interested, but I am listening. Any guesses on this one? What do you think this one is? Call out. What does that expression suggest to you on that one?
Not true.
Sorry?
Not true.
Not true. He might be doubting it. What makes you say that? What about his expression says he might be doubting what Jesus says?
Because he's folding his arms.
Because he's folding his arms. Very good. That's right. I'm now looking at all of you folding your arms. Alan there. That's right. Well, very interesting, Jesus, but we'll have to think about that. Devout on the left here, would you say? Man with his hands. I tried to magnify this to see what it was, but it looks like the child is playing some prank on the lady just beneath him. There's something in his hand there. Couldn't quite work that out.
God, look.
Wow! Look at this! Look at this! What a beautiful colouring. Well done. Thank you very much. There we are. Last of all, there's a very devout person here. Would you say? And I couldn't help feeling this person sending a text.
Like what I did.
This reminds me of many people in my lectures who I ask a question and they're strangely looking under their desk with both hands under here. A variety of listeners. What sort of listeners are we might ask?